nearly there. Just a bit more verb action to sort out, and then you'll know the magic sheet inside out. Well, except that then I'll try and make you learn it. But yes, verbs. We've done all the kind of fundamental terminology for verbs, the kind of generic terminology for verbs at any rate. There is one or two other conceptual things I'd like to kind of float about verbs, and then we'll just look at some of the forms, and then we'll be done. One of the conceptual things about the verb is that the magic sheet includes the verb to be. Anyway, never mind. The verb to be. The big concept that I need to convey here is that being is an action. Being is a verb. Okay? The verb to be is a verb. And the verb to be is irregular. It has all sorts of weird forms. In modern English, I am, you were, he is, I was, you were, he was, unless you're from Yorkshire, in which case it's I were, you was, he were. But anyway, being is a verb. You just need to understand that. The verb to be is irregular, and it's here on the magic sheet, and you'll need to learn that. And then the other conceptual thing to get on board is this business of strong and weak again. Strong and weak nouns, just two different categories of nouns. Strong and weak adjectives, two different functions for the same adjectives. Strong and weak verbs have nothing to do with strong and weak nouns or adjectives. There is no conceptual connection between strong and weak verbs and strong and weak nouns and adjectives. No relation at all. They just like using the same terminology over and over again in the 19th century, and we're stuck with it. What's the difference between a strong verb and a weak verb? Strong verbs indicate tense by changing a root vowel. Strong verbs indicate tense by changing a root vowel. A few concepts there. Tense, that's a time reference of the verb, present or past. I want, I wanted. I want it now, I wanted it in the past. So, strong verbs indicate tense by changing a root vowel, that is, a vowel right in the kind of core bit of the verb, nothing at the end, actually in the main word, the main element of the verb. We still have strong verbs in English, so don't worry, this concept will fall into place. It's things like I sing, I sang. I have sung a song. I sing, I sang, I sung. I run to the lecture. I ran to the lecture. I shoot the dog. I shot the dog. What we're doing now is not putting endings on the verbs. We're changing a vowel in the middle of the verb, and that's changing its tense. It's changing its reference from being the present to being the past. Old English does this too. You'll see down at the very bottom, in fact, that there's a list of classes of strong verbs. That's because there are about sort of 7 or 8 different ways in which Old English verbs can change vowels in order to indicate tense. In my worldview, at any rate, you don't need to learn this table, but you need to understand the concept, and you need to be in a position to look at a verb and go, oh, well, that's got a funny vowel, and I can't find it in the dictionary. Ah, maybe it's a past tense. And a lot of the time you'll do that intuitively as a speaker of modern English. Yeah, strong verbs are out there. There are quite a lot of them in Old English. There are more than in modern English. And they indicate tense by changing a vowel. I don't think I'm going to attempt to do anything else with the concept of the strong verb. Weak verbs indicate tense by putting an ending on the end, and it's usually got a D in it. Endings like odder. And these correspond to the kind of I wanted, I walked, I think. No, let's not have think and thought, it's too confusing. But I wanted. Stick an ED on the end makes it past. So the weak verbs correspond to that main category of modern English verbs. So you just need to have those floating. Conceptually, it shouldn't be too hard because it's very similar to modern English. And after that, we just get into stuff that's probably fairly routine if you know anything about any foreign language at all, which hopefully is most of you. So, as I've said, verbs have tense, time reference, and in Old English, you've only got 2 tenses. you might have learnt Latin, and you might have sort of been learning about present, future, presents and futures, and pluperfects and future perfects. Old English has present and it has past. That's the lot. And you use the present for the future. In a way, we do this in modern English too. It might sound a bit strange at first, but you say things like, are you going to the shops tomorrow? Yes, I am. Not, will you be going to the shops tomorrow? Yes, I will be. I am going to the shops tomorrow, and it's just context that allows you to tell that that present tense verb is referring to the future. So Old English only has 2 tenses, so that's easy. Yeah, within the different tenses, Old English has specific endings according to the person of the verb, at least in the singular. In the plural, they all have the same endings anyway, so that's easy. What does this correspond to? It's things like, I run to the shops, he runs to the shops. If you want to get kind of Shakespearean about it, I run to the shops, thou runnest to the shops, he runneth to the shops. Old English is doing that, and here on the magic sheet, it's a little chart showing you the endings that different categories of verbs have for their different persons. And the strong verbs are rather different from the weak verbs in this. There are a few categories of weak verbs that differ from each other slightly, but on the whole they're pretty much the same. So we have things like ich kruipe, I creep, thou kruipst, you creepest, thou creepest, you creep. Third person singular, hair, hang on, got to remember the vowel, oh yeah, hair creepeth, he creepeth. In the plural, it's just all straightforward. Where kruilpath, ye kruilpath, he kruilpath, we creep, you creep, they creep. Cool. Yeah, and you can look at the magic sheet for yourself to kind of work your way through those endings. I expect people to learn them and to know them by heart, but the concept is hopefully familiar. You change the ending according to person, but you only need to worry about it in the singular, because in the plural, it's easy. Those are verbs, and that is the end of my tour of the magic sheet. I think I'm going to do one more video, which will be about pronunciation, and then we'll be there. Rock on!